as well. How you doing, guys?
We're here.
Yay, we're here.
Ready to go.
All right, tape is rolling, as they say, counting you down. 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo! My compliments, little lady.
Break for 30 seconds.
You are now listening to Baad Radio.
And welcome back as we launch into the second hour of Baad Radio. I'm going to run through all of the regular intros. So in studio with me, we have our producer, Melissa Foxx.
Hello.
She sounds like you're real far away when you just said that.
I did.
And next to me, we have our videographer and co-host, Melissa Jacob.
Hello, part two.
Part 2, exactly. And then also, in studio with it we have now is a guest that's been on Baad Radio before as well, but he's never been in the studio. So please welcome John Kennedy.
Hi, happy to be here.
He's so mellow.
I know. I feel like he's like
That's how I
repressing
roll.
something like that right now. Like he's like really like wound up, but he's just being super calm about it. But John owns a company called Forge IT Consulting. So we are going to talk with him about all things IT. Now, we did have an IT guy on last week, Brian Awesome. So I do want to talk a little bit about the differences because he talked about some serious cyber scary stuff.
Breaking, hacking, and stuff like that.
But first, this portion of Baad Radio is brought to us by Ground Up Property Services. Are your roots needing a touch-up? Not your hair, but your grass. At Ground Up Property Services, we can help make sure your grass roots are doing well underground and give them that lawn that just
Stepped
out of the salon. I love it.
I got you.
So it's like this spray that they spray on the lawn and it makes it green, but it dries like within the hour. And so if you have a wedding or an event.
Holidays. If you have something coming up, if you're having Super Bowl party at your house, I guess it's going to be too late to know about this now, but
I don't know. Maybe you can turn it pretty quick.
Yeah.
But have you seen what we're talking
I
about?
haven't seen that yet.
Okay. So Rick Hall has a service. I mean, it's an irrigation service, and it's a great one. We use it for our irrigation system. But he can also come and spray your lawn. So if you have like brown spots and things like that, but you're having an event at your house or anywhere, and you need it to look nice, he just comes and basically
like
sprays.
Alice in Wonderland painting the roses red, but your grass.
All right. Exactly.
That's what it sounded like, exactly.
Right?
That's exactly what it is. But to find out more, go to groundupinc.net or call 407-468-4295. And I think he's got a thing here because I think that it's important for people to have good looking lawns, especially if you've got an HOA and they're sticklers for your lawn.
Oh, yeah.
And you just keep getting that letter and pretty soon you're going to start getting fines and then they're going to want to put a lien on your house. Just don't go there, okay?
Avoid the lien, just spray it
Just
green.
spray.
Hey, that should be their slogan. Avoid the lien,
it's
spray it green.
I love it. Rick, I hope you're listening to this.
Freebie. That one's free.
You just got to know when you're actually going to get, somebody coming by to check it.
That's true.
Right.
Got to know that. If you don't know, then
Yeah.
how long does it last?
I used to live in a community that had an HOA, and I loved it and I hated it. So it's like, if you just let a little bit go, you get the letter, and you're just like, oh, come
Gosh,
on.
dang it. I'm doing the best I can over here.
I know. It's like, it was like a little, like, it was only one extra car in front of my house. This is when
Just
I
that
was
one
in,
time. Yeah.
when I was in
I hear you.
college. I bought a townhouse in Winter Park, and like I said, we always had a lot of people there. So, also wanted to thank a new sponsor we have, and that's Crazy Muscle Nutrition in Longwood, and Zach's going to be on the show. Oh, next week or the week after, I have to go and look.
Soon.
So, yes, soon. All right. So in this hour, what I wanted to talk a little bit more in the first hour we talked about BNI, but right now what I want to do is just talk real quick about just networking BNI in general for businesses that are the size of both John's and Melissa's. So John, real quick, tell us a little bit about your business.
So I run an IT consulting company. I also do managed services, IT support, and actual consulting, where I'll come in and I'll help somebody that already has an IT team. So anywhere from a company that's got lots and lots of employees that only need a little bit of help with a certain thing down to a company that's, our size, where it's just one person and they need their stuff taken care of, whether it's a printer that doesn't work or Wi-Fi that doesn't work.
Right. That was me yesterday.
Exactly. Or if it's, something more complex where we need to make sure that, your data is secure or always available in the cloud in some way. All these sorts of things all fall under that IT banner.
But your business is you, right?
That's right. It's just me.
And Melissa, your business is you, right?
It's me and one other person, so I have some support, which
Right.
I'm very thankful for. But
Right.
yeah, I'm in the same boat pretty much. Small
and
business.
So you're a small business, and you're responsible for generating your leads, but also servicing the accounts, right?
That's right.
And so that's really, honestly, what this core of the show is about, is local businesses and business networking. So how important is networking to your guys' business?
It's essential. I mean, I don't do sales. I'm not a salesperson.
No,
I don't
you're
know-
kidding.
I don't know how to do sales.
I don't like it. I hate it.
Exactly. I mean, I have tried sales. I worked for a company called Quill for a short period of time in Miami, selling door-to-door office supplies to
Okay.
businesses in a particular geographic area. It was brutal.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
And
I could just, because
hated it.
John's in my BNI chapter.
Okay.
And John is like, it's almost like he's just bedpan, like, or not bedpan,
Bedpan.
Such a pan. We don't want that. No, don't call any of our guests a bedpan. She didn't mean it.
straight face,
Yes.
Deadpan.
deadpan.
Close.
Thank you.
She didn't mean it.
So can you scratch that part of the show?
No, it stays in. It's staying in.
But it, like, I can see you walk into somebody's door going, do you want to buy? No, you probably
Listen,
don't. All right.
Some
and
of
walk
us are
away.
salespeople, Angela. We can't all be Angelas. I'm with
true.
you.
Oh my
though.
God,
I used to
I
be.
had a script, and the script kind of worked, but the problem was I wasn't aggressive enough, and I didn't speak enough Spanish.
Okay, yeah, that's a problem.
okay.
I used to sell jewelry. I was an assistant manager, and I hated it. I
Yeah.
was like, as soon as they're like, oh, I don't know if this is, I'm like, yeah, it's probably, you're right. It's probably not.
It's not going to work
We'll
for you.
find something
Sorry.
else.
Right, the soft sell we're really good at. Take it or leave it, I don't care. That I can do. The hard sell,
The closing
not
and
going
all
to
that.
happen. I can't stand
Yeah.
it. I can't stand it on me, so I'm not going to do it to you.
Yeah.
Well, I love selling, but I don't consider myself like, I don't know. I mean, I've never been like had the door slammed on my face and said,
It's
don't.
because you love the things that you're selling. Like I
Exactly.
can tell you genuinely buy into the products and
Yes.
stuff. So when you're selling, it's like you're just trying to share
Yes.
it with people.
I'm not a good salesperson if I try to sell something that I
Right.
don't feel for.
Right.
And like radio is something that I've always been passionate about. I love the spoken word, which is what they call what we're doing right now. I think it's so informative. You get to learn people's personalities. And then when you sell an endorsement to a company, they get such good feedback from that. But anyway, we digress. So BNI, did you know about BNI before you
I
launched
had
your company?
No idea. I was planning to do the literal door-to-door thing, and I looked into some kinds of networking with absolutely no idea what I was doing. I think I joined something called 1 Million Cups, which is an interesting group, but they're really more focused on taking in a particular small business and helping that small business figure out things that they haven't figured out yet, like tearing apart their business plan and
Sounds
saying,
like a
"Does this
consulting
work?"
company.
It kind of is,
Yeah.
but instead it's a whole bunch of other small business owners in the local area that are talking to another young small business owner. And I went to this thinking it might be interesting. I didn't really know what it was about until I went to a few times. And I met Lizzie Barassa, another one of the members in our group.
Yes.
And she invited me.
She's a salesperson. Lizzie,
She
you're a
absolutely
salesperson.
is. And she invited me to come to the meeting. I had no idea what to expect. I showed up and I, heard the basic BNI spiel and said, this is for me.
Right.
This is where I belong.
Lizzie, Jen Andrews, and Rachel Roach were the ones that got me into the chapter, and I saw it as like these incredible business women, and they were, like I said, they were confident and they had a lot going for them, and I was like, that's where I belong, because I had visited some other chapters. Oh, dang it! All right, music. That means we're going to break. All right. Well, when we get back, we're going to jump in to more IT talk with John with Forge IT Consulting.
You're listening to Bad Radio. It was bad. I'm sorry. Business at a distance. Bad Radio. We'll be right back. I might not be. What happened?
That was pretty.
I'm sorry.
Perfect.
I don't know what happened. I really don't. I'll fix that.
Oh, it's like I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if her flub has to stay in, yours has to
Yeah.
stay in.
Okay.
I mean, it's fair is fair.
All
Fair.
right.
Oh my God.
Fair's fair. Fair's fair. I guess I'm. Oh
Deadpan,
gosh.
is that right?
Deadpan, yes.
Deadpan.
All right, hold on. I'm still cleaning up the end here, just so we can do that. Let's see.
That was pretty.
I'm sorry. I should leave. I
Yeah,
should
somebody's got to clip that. That
Yeah.
was pretty. Put that one right in the intro,
That was pretty.
I'm sorry.
along with the
Have
Fifth
that-
Element
can you do
quote.
that where you do the clip where you can just hit the button and it will say that was pretty.
Yeah. hold
That was
on.
pretty.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think.
Flubs, I can hit them.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna play it from my recording here, real quick. Here we go. I'm sorry. There we go.
That was pretty.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
All right, I'm getting rid of that part. Let's see where the. All right, gets down there. This is the behind-the-scenes part of the radio that you guys probably don't even know that happens. Plays on the radio. I'm talking on social media here, and it'll play on the radio. It'll be like, what? Wait, it's so beautiful. You guys are. Here I am right here. I'm just gonna say hi for a sec. Yeah, we put it on the radio. Oh, sounds great. Fixed it in the mix. That's me. That's what I do. I fix it in the mix right here so that we sound like really good. But really, in reality, it's like, I don't know. And yeah, and we pull it all together, and next thing you know, hey, we're radio pros.
I love that voice.
Fix it in post.
Exactly. Well, I just fixed it right here while we were dawdling around, and actually got it all on tape.
That's so fun. I love it.
Okay, so back to what we're doing here. We got segment number 2 again of the 2 hour. So stand by.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
And we are back. Wanted to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, Bolts Legal, that we mentioned earlier. Bolts Legal is going to be on site at Frogger's for Super Bowl Sunday from 4 to 5 o'clock, and that's going to be the Oviedo location. Also wanted to thank Rachel Roach Realty, a Coldwell Banker Realtor. With a sea of realtors out there, choose the one that thinks about you first and not their commission. That's Rachel Roach, 407-252-4566. All right, so we were having some fun on break, but now we're going to talk about something a little bit more serious, and that's IT. Now, is IT like super exciting? I think so. And I don't know about you, John, but what do you think? Do you think it's super exciting?
I think it's super exciting, but I find tech and technical problems very interesting.
I know this is going to come off kind of funny, but I dreamed about having somebody like John in our life.
Okay.
And I mean that sincerely, because I remember when my son was having computer problems, and I remember saying to my husband, I was like, God, I just wish there was somebody I could call that understood this stuff, that could even just like, I will pay them to come and fix this stuff, because we tried to get online to find computer support. I ended up paying like some fee of $49.99 to have somebody call to go through the problem. Just it was, trust me, it was desperation is what we're talking about. So that is what I mean when I say that I like literally needed somebody that was able to do the things
Everyone
that you do.
needs somebody like that in their life. If they don't have one, then they got to go find one.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about all the services that you offer at Forge IT Consulting.
Okay, so it's really simple, really. It's, do you have a problem with your computer, your Wi-Fi, your cloud apps, something? Do you have somebody to call? I'm that person. It is really that simple.
So that means that your target market is everybody.
Mostly, yeah. I mean, if you're a medium to large business that has tons of internal IT, you probably already have somebody. So my target audience is really more small business.
Okay.
small businesses, they don't have, the extra money to pay an IT professional to be on staff 24/7. Even in a part-time one, you're probably talking like $30,000 a year to have somebody that actually knows what they're doing that's going to work on your stuff.
Yeah.
So
you mean you don't like little Timmy who just got out of high school?
No, those people can be useful, especially when you're first starting and you just have no money. But once you're, at least have some income coming in, having somebody that can fix something for you, just picking up the call and getting it done, like you were talking about, is generally going to be more cost effective for you anyway, because your time is valuable. Whatever it is that you're doing as your own small business, you're making money doing it.
Right.
Unless you're working on something that doesn't make you money.
Well,
and usually working on your own IT doesn't make you money.
Yeah.
So if you can call somebody and just get it done, then you're not spending that time wasted.
Yeah, and it's not just the time. So you're not just not making money, you're losing money because you're spending your time doing that instead. And then if something isn't done the right way, you could be inviting other problems that are going to just cost you more money.
Exactly.
Well, that's exactly what happened with me, is that I work from home now. And so we've upgraded our home office, and it looks great, but I couldn't get the printer to work, and I need a freaking printer. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm sorry, we need a printer. So I bought a new. I took our old printer that's like from 2007, and I seriously office space style took it outside, if you know what I mean. It was making me crazy. Tom said he laughed. He opened up the trash can outside, and it was our printer.
Wasn't kidding.
He was like, oh well, I guess that made her mad.
That's fun. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but the printers are so not expensive anymore. So I got a new printer, and I set it up, and it worked. And I was like, yes. And then we set it in the office, and then it didn't work. And then I spent another uninstalling, reinstalling, doing this, doing that. And I mean, it was just like.
Get more and more frustrated, and then you're less likely to be able to do it because you're just so frustrated.
Yeah.
That sounds like me.
No. And then I wasted time, and I was mad. And Tom texted me, he goes, I'll take a look at it when you get home. I'm like, no, you won't. I'm like, and he came out, and I just sat at the dining room table, or I sat in the kitchen, and I did my own thing. And he was there for, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. Yeah. And he taught me a lot about my house that I didn't know, though.
Well, I mean, the
That's
problem
nice, a
wasn't with the
bonus.
printer. The printer was fine. The problem was that you had trusted your internet service provider to fix a Wi-Fi problem, which I don't know about
how am I
everybody
supposed to
else.
know?
Exactly. People don't know. That's the problem. They don't know that internet service providers are not your friend. They're not there to set you up with the perfect network. They're there to deliver internet to whatever device it is that you want it on and do the absolute bare minimum. And if they can find a way to upcharge you in some way, shape, or form to fix the problem that you are calling about, they will. So in your circumstance, they set up a completely separate internet connection in your kid's room with its own Wi-Fi.
What in the world?
Exactly.
I've never even seen that.
They
And
told me that we had to, though, because our house, they tried to do this thing where they bounce the signal off, and then they said that the office walls were too thick. They gave me every reason.
They gave you a whole bunch of nonsense because the person that was
I got
doing
lied to, man.
Dang it.
it's not even really their fault, and I'm not sure they're necessarily lying to you, but they don't know what they're doing. These are contractors don't have the type of IT
Forgive
knowledge
them.
that I do. They have what they've been taught on the job on how to do this for that company, for Spectrum. They're doing things the Spectrum way. They're not doing it the right way. They just
Right.
do it the Spectrum way. And so you got set up in such a situation where if you are connected to one Wi-Fi and the printer is connected to a different Wi-Fi, well, you're never going to be able to print because they're not the same network. And you had no way to know that.
No.
You're not an IT professional. You don't understand how the internet works. Most people don't. And that's normal. But that's the reason why you should have an expert, because you probably could have saved yourself some time and frustration and possibly a monthly charge by setting up a mesh Wi-Fi network in your home that I'm sure would work based off the testing I did of the one Wi-Fi that it's connected to. And we could have gotten it working that way. But
So you think I would? I mean, just because I'm paying for two routers that now
you're paying for double the internet connection.
Oh, no.
But I don't ever have to worry about my son not having internet. Like
Yeah.
there's
That's true. And, sometimes you don't want to be on the same internet connection as a teenage boy. But,
No,
that's a different
not
reason.
with a gaming computer. Not with a gaming
I
computer.
don't think that's where he was going.
I know. Not my son. Not my son.
I know you don't want to hear it. He's your dear boy, and you're his mommy.
He's looking at baseball videos all the time.
Studying and practicing and doing good. We got you, Aiden.
But in any case, you got a solution to the problem that was given to them. He didn't have internet, and they gave him internet.
I didn't care at that point. I was like, charge me whatever.
And you got
Charged
the
whatever.
immediate problem, charged whatever, and you got the medium problem fixed. But you didn't get a holistic approach to the problem, and so the fix wasn't ultimately as good as it could have been for you.
I mean, I'm bummed that I spent too much money, but I mean, I'm just happy that everything works.
Yeah, and now everything works because now you and all of your devices always connect to that network and not his network, and your printer's on that network, and you shouldn't have problems unless that network somehow goes down. And that's
and then just call him again.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it's probably just reboot this stuff.
Yeah.
Because turn it off, turn it back
Well,
on again.
lots of times
ultimately
what
does
I
work
worry about
very well.
too is because I'm deathly scared. I'm not deathly scared, but I don't want it to be such a goofy problem that it's like super simple and they're like, oh, okay, well, you just need to hit this button and it's all fixed, and it came out.
See, you don't need to be afraid of something like that. When you've got an IT person who is there and is the person that is supposed to be helping you out, especially small businesses that go in a payment method where they're paying for a package price that's flat every month, whatever it is you have to have fixed, it's done. You call up an IT person that's got you managed like that, you never need to worry about whether or not it's a stupid question.
Really?
We've heard them all. They're all some level of dumb, but we don't care.
I bet.
We don't care. We're there to help you.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit more as far as like the different ways that you can buy service. So stay tuned, you guys. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more with that with John with Forge IT Consulting.
All right, let's try this again. You're listening to Baad Radio, business at a distance radio. Check out baadradio.com, B-A-A-D radio.com.
Loving the music, girl. All right, I need to. Give me 1 second in between breaks.
Thank you. That's what we do behind the scenes. Good times.
Loving the music, girl.
That.
Do they really only last like an hour, or is this just?
That one is an older camera. These ones are lovely and cooperate. This one is a pain in the ass, but I got it extra.
There you go.
Okay.
So I didn't really realize that, John. So people can pay like. Well, let's talk about it on here.
Yeah, but we absolutely will. But yes, that's honestly, it's the better option for both the IT person and the client. You just need to make sure you can find the fairest way to do it for both. You don't want it set up in such a way that the client's calling you so much that you're not getting any good ROI on it on my side.
Right.
And the same is true if you're not calling enough and I'm charging you for X amount of support, then you're not using it. Well, that's bad on your side.
Okay, we ready to go? Everybody's back in their chair with bright, shiny hair? Okay.
That was a poem.
Yeah, well, I was like halfway in there, and I'm like, where am I going to go with that one? And I made it. So that's why I'm in radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. All right, stand by, folks. Tape is rolling. Quiet on the set. Quiet, Melissa. And 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Baad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
And welcome back. And this portion of Baad Radio is brought to you by Artistic Beauty in Winter Park and 33 Tanning Spa and 33 Micro Spa with locations in Altamont Springs and Longwood. We got to talk about 33 Tanning and Micro Spa a lot in the first hour. So we love Erin and her team out there. Okay, so before we went to break, we were starting to touch on like pricing. So let's continue with that train of thought.
Sure.
And so, so I just called you. I'll call it a la carte.
Right.
Okay. So I called you because I had a specific problem. You came out and you charged me for 45 minutes.
Exactly. It's
And it was totally reasonable too. Like I was like, I would have paid you more.
an hourly rate means that look, it's whatever time you spend with me, I'll charge you for that amount and nothing more. Most newer clients like to work on that sort of a basis, especially smaller clients, simply because they're too scared of paying for too much that they don't need. And that makes sense. But ultimately, the better way to go is to have a flat rate so that you've got unlimited calls for whatever it is that you need, and it's all covered. That
Right.
way, you have a flat rate that you know what's in the budget every month. I know it's in my budget every month.
It would be
and
hard not to.
whenever you call, we don't need to worry about how much you're being charged.
Right.
It's already there. It's already done.
But you have to set some limitations on them, right?
Right. I mean,
Business
there are certain
hours
things.
and stuff.
Yeah, it's got to be during business hours. There are certain things like, say, you're physically moving your office. That's not going to be included in support of your computers
Right.
and users. That's a
Not
project.
A moving company. Yeah,
Exactly.
gotcha.
I'm not a moving company. I got to set up everything new or fresh or something like that. That's going to be outside. But when you've got a random problem, do you want to worry that you're how much you're spending to get it fixed? Or would you rather know that whatever the problem is, whenever you need to call, you just pick up the phone and call it, and it just gets done?
Right.
I mean, one of my clients did exactly that right before I came here. They had an
Worked out
emergency. They needed help. They called. I picked up the phone. I got it done. It was done. They didn't need to worry about how much they were spending, and it was just done.
So how many of the what percentage of these IT problems are you able to solve remotely, like not
I
even
was gonna
having to
ask that
travel?
question too.
Probably
Yeah.
at least 90%.
Oh, nice.
It
So
is really, really easy to make sure that somebody can get back online. As long as they can be back online and their computer will boot, I can fix it remotely.
But not my printer stuff though.
The printer stuff, I needed to find out what exactly was the problem.
Okay.
So that one was
more hands-on.
because I didn't know your network.
Okay.
If I have got a client that I've already been there and I've seen their office, I know what their network looks like, especially if I'm already maintaining it. At that stage, I know where everything is. I can tell you where to go. If I need you to physically touch something for me, then it's really simple.
So how hard is it to go in after somebody else has like been in there meddling around and kind of figure it out and fix it?
Unmetal it.
Unmetal it.
It is tough. Let me tell you. I had a client very recently, another home client, that they had a Sonos speaker system. And if you're not familiar with it, it's essentially just a wireless speaker system. They're all supposed to just work together and do surround sound and have different spaces all tied to particular speakers, and they're all just supposed to work on this one app.
Everything's always supposed to just work. It just never does.
Exactly. You're right. And the tech companies love saying how easy stuff is. They're almost never are. This particular house, I went in thinking, okay, maybe we just need to set up a couple things. Maybe it just dropped off the Wi-Fi. I tried that for the first few hours I was there. That did not work.
Right.
I eventually had to pick apart their network and figure out that they had a Wi-Fi access point in an upstairs bedroom that wasn't plugged into the network, but was still broadcasting the same Wi-Fi network.
How did you find that out? I mean,
I had to ask a lot of questions.
Oh,
I mean, that's
okay.
what it comes down to. It's asking the people that were there, that own the stuff, a whole bunch of questions.
Well, I'm just
and
figuring you
saying,
walking around with like a sensor, kind of like
No.
like Ghostbusters, where it gets like hot or
You
gets
could
to a
do that,
certain
but
spot.
that is less reliable because there's so much ambient RF signals out there that being able to locate it down to a particular place using a detector like that would be really tough.
Well, I know on certain days when I look at my Wi-Fi, I can see my Wi-Fi from my neighbors 3 doors down that pick it up, and so I guess it has to do with like whatever atmospheric or whatever. But there's some days it's like very long, and I'm like, hey, wonder if they have a password on there.
We're
Yeah.
just gonna try some stuff.
Exactly. But until I found that particular Wi-Fi access point, I was beating my head against a wall because I would join something to a Wi-Fi network and then it just wouldn't be there. I couldn't find it from the other, computer I had on the network. It wasn't there. So that was tricky. And that took a lot of extra time because somebody had messed around there that didn't know what they were doing.
He's a problem-solving person. You know, he'd be really good in one of those escape rooms, I bet.
Yes.
Have you done that
Always
before?
tried. I've always wanted to do that. I haven't tried it
Oh
yet.
my God, I would want you on my team. You have that problem solver like
I've done
mentality.
escapology before.
Have you?
Yeah, it was fun, a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, my brother tried to do it one time, and he was like, "I'm just going to be the timekeeper. I'm going to let you know how much time you have left. You guys just let me know."
It's all about fixing the problem. That gets me in trouble with my wife, but it's always about fixing the problem in my head.
Right. Okay, what about like offices? So that's somebody's house. Lots of times do you go to offices and have to rebuild things from the ground?
A lot of times
floor?
there, it's a lot easier to just say, okay, this was done improperly. You're missing things that you need. Let's start over. Mm-hmm. And especially when they're missing major parts of their networking situation, like they're missing a firewall when they're a business that is supposed to have one for security reasons. When you're having to do that, you're having to rip and replace a lot of stuff anyway. So typically, that's what you'll start out with as much as possible with a new client. And once they're set and they've got what they need, it's fairly easy to continue to support them after that.
See, this is where I get confused a lot of the time, and is like you've got software, you've got hardware, and then you've got the service carriers and how they all have to work together to make that turn on and give me what I want it to do.
Right. That's the joy of the work as far as I'm concerned. I love doing IT because it's taking a whole bunch of different systems that all work a particular way and making them all work together the way the client needs it to.
So I want to talk about service carriers a little bit because we talked about Spectrum.
Right.
Now, you know how when you live in certain areas, like some places are Duke Energy, it's like you can only get, I mean, that's not the way it is with Wi-Fi carriers, is it? Like, do I have to use Spectrum or can I use somebody else?
It really depends on what's available in your area. And a lot of times it is kind of like a monopoly, like your electric company, where if, Spectrum's the only carrier that's in your area, well, then that's all you got, to an extent at least.
Right.
At least for a home user, it's not going to make sense to pay for some other different way of doing internet most of the time. Like satellite, you're better off not using it unless you can't get anything else.
Right.
Cellular internet is becoming a little bit more interesting with 5G. It might be something that's useful for some people, so I'm hoping it becomes better.
I don't understand cellular like our phones?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
You can get internet from people like T-Mobile right now, where they'll sell you a home router that has a cell chip in it, a SIM card essentially. So it connects to the cellular network, and then it provides internet for the rest of your house from that one device. With 5G, at least as long as you've got good coverage in the area and whatever tower you're connecting to with cellular has enough bandwidth to actually provide you with good amount of bandwidth, that could be a good option nowadays. 4G wasn't ready. You could use that as like a backup, but some businesses did if they needed to be online all the time, but it wasn't all that good for like home use. Another type of internet connection that is interesting and from a business perspective might be worth it is called site-to-site Wi-Fi. Some cities will have internet companies that they will beam Wi-Fi directly at you, site-to-site, point-to-point. And you have a special antenna that sets up on as high as you can possibly get, and it needs to be able to, line of sight, see the antenna of the company that provides that internet.
That's really interesting. I want to keep talking about that because that's very interesting. So you guys stay tuned. When we get back, we're going to talk about site-to-site.
We're learning here. It's Bad Radio. B-A-A-D, business at a distance. We'll be right back.
It's what's available.
I think we have only like 2 different options, maybe, where we are. Maybe.
In my neighborhood, Spectrum is the major one. AT&T is available in part of my neighborhood, but not all of it.
Yeah.
That's right. And our HOA board had enough members on it that were really fed up with Spectrum and couldn't get AT&T fiber. that they went out and contracted to get fiber for the entire neighborhood paid for by the HOA, which of course means all of our HOA fees are going up. But with a 10 to 12 year time frame on the contract, it means that we get it for real damn cheap. It's going to be like $35 a month essentially the first year. It'll go up over.
They're
over
doing
time,
some sort of
but-
fiber optics underground in my neighborhood over in Altamont Springs. They've got it all flagged out anyway. I think it's going to be called WOW Internet Service or something. Yeah, I don't
Haven't
even
heard of
know.
that one.
But yeah, me neither. I haven't heard of what system it's going to be, but right now I'm kind of stuck with Spectrum. And yeah, it's exactly like you said. It's third party or even fourth or fifth subcontracted down. They look at your house sometimes. They look at the wiring on the outside. They just keep driving.
Like, God, not even giving me the
Not gonna do that. Oh no. Yeah. So I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Reset the table a little. Take it down to layman's terms. Paint me a picture. And this is the last segment.
Is it really? Okay, I thought we had two more. No, lost track of time.
No, we don't. So stand by. Tape is rolling. Okay, I lied. Now it's rolling. There we go.
Welcome back to Bad Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
And we are back for our last segment of Bad Radio for today, and it's so hard to believe that it's already almost here. So anyway,
Cruising through.
I know, I love it though. I could talk. I know it sounds super nerdy, but I could talk like
Talk
this-
tech.
Yeah, because
It's because there's so much to learn because we're not in that field. So it's like,
Right.
tell me all the things.
So we were talking about site to site, and then what were some of the other ones that you said?
And then there's your usual coaxial cable internet and fiber internet. And those really require wiring in the ground. And if it's not there, you can't get it unless you're willing to spend a lot of money and the company is willing to dig the holes and lay the cable to get to where you
It's an
are.
investment.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's worth it. But a lot of times small business don't want to pay for it unless you can get, like, say you're in a strip mall. That strip mall doesn't have fiber. It's only got Spectrum coaxial internet. And you say, I want fiber. And you go around to all the other tenants in that strip mall and say, hey, do you want fiber? And they all say yes. And you all go to a carrier that's willing to do that, an AT&T, a Spectrum, put out actual fiber and say, hey, I want fiber. And they'll look around and see, okay, where's our nearest fiber? Can we conceivably do it? Here's how much we'll charge to do the initial setup. And here's the year-long contract or whatever, or a 3-year-long contract that we need you to sign in order for us to do all of this work and make it worth it to us. Sometimes that's worth it. A lot of times it isn't for small business, and you just have to make do. But the point is, you're really stuck with what's available in your area, and there often isn't very much available.
Right.
I'm hoping 5G really, the providers make the effort to make sure there's enough bandwidth available that people can actually use that as a conceivably good route for their businesses.
So when you were talking about like being on the same Wi-Fi, but I meant one signal can have multiple things on it, but that weakens it. So like if you have, I'm talking about like Wi-Fi. So on my house, we have, I'd say like what, 50 or no, about 70% of all of it's going to be using that one Wi-Fi that's in the office.
Right.
And then the rest is Aiden. Right. But if Aiden was on ours, would we run slower?
So internet connections are actually a little bit more complicated than most people think. And you bring up a good question. So the Wi-Fi part of the internet connection is only one part. Whatever you're getting at the modem level, so where the coax or the fiber or whatever plugs in, is the bandwidth that you're being sold from the internet company. Bandwidth is like a tube. When you're think of like a water spigot or a hose. How big around is that hose, and how much water can you put through it at one time? That's the bandwidth of that hose. Now, each internet connection to that box will be a certain amount of bandwidth. Then you connect to your local internal network, whether that be a wired connection or a Wi-Fi connection. Usually those are pretty darn fast, if not faster than the bandwidth you're getting from the internet provider to the modem.
Right.
And if you're talking about a wired connection, most stuff nowadays is gigabit for internal networking for fairly cheap. If you're talking about Wi-Fi, you're either on Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6. Wi-Fi 5 can get close to about gigabit. Wi-Fi 6 can go over gigabit.
That means it's just super fast,
two
right?
and a half.
To a normal person,
So yeah, that's pretty darn fast. But you have to have those lined up. Just because you have Wi-Fi that's Wi-Fi 6 and can do 2.5 gig connections doesn't mean that you're going to get that from a computer or a device that's connecting to it, because that device or computer has to also be Wi-Fi 6, and the internet connection at your modem has to be that fast too. So just because you've got 2.5 gigs worth of bandwidth on your Wi-Fi doesn't mean you're going to get that connecting out to the internet when your modem only gets 300 meg.
Is that like the TVs that were like the super good resolution, but then it doesn't really matter if you don't have a certain... Come on, fill in the rest.
When you've got super high resolution, but you've got a VCR that only puts out really standard definition, and you've got a super high def TV, you're still only going to get standard def,
right?
Because that's all that's being output. That's a fairly good analogy.
Okay, thank you. Are you proud of me?
You should be
you
proud
know
of
what?
yourself.
I always feel like patting myself on the back when somebody says that's a good question. I'm like, yes, it's a good one.
Yes. So you have to make sure that all of the things line up. Now, going back to the Wi-Fi and your question about being on, if he was on the Wi-Fi, would you all, the rest of you, be slower? All of that bandwidth that we're talking about is always shared. It's not each individual device that's connected gets that amount of bandwidth. No, it's shared bandwidth, especially with Wi-Fi and your internet connection. When you've got a wired connection between each device, those aren't necessarily shared. You could have full gigabit connection on each device back to your internet provider's modem that way. But if you've only got a gigabit connection out to the internet, well, if somebody's using 500 megs on their computer, well, the next computer only has 500 megs available because that's half the gigabit. So that's true on Wi-Fi as well. If you've got enough devices that are all on your Wi-Fi, well, that's each device is taking up some of that bandwidth depending upon what it's doing. So the faster you can get your Wi-Fi based device, the better. And it will make more of a difference there than it will on an individual device having Wi-Fi 6, for instance.
Yeah. Well, see, because Aiden has the gaming computer. He does all of he's got the whatever it is, like the virtual reality with like all
the VR headset.
The VR headset, but he's got all the sensors. So he's like doing full motion stuff, and
It needs a track and be real time and all that fun stuff.
So I'm trying to justify having that I'm spending that kind of money for a whole another one.
What's happening?
Well, it depends on what.
I need you to say yes.
It depends
You're
on
justified.
It depends on his VR gear and what it's using. If the VR gear is actually using the Wi-Fi itself, then I could see him being off and separated on his own being beneficial. I
just
can also
justify it for me.
She said, "Okay, that's it. That's all I need to know."
But as far as the internet bandwidth itself, people really overestimate how much bandwidth they need on a regular basis, and that's because of the hype of internet speed. Another portion of that internet speed train that we were talking about, that was all the stuff on your side. Well, there's stuff on the other side too. If, say, you're going to a website or a streaming service, they have to have enough bandwidth to be able to handle your connection. You've got a gigabit connection to the internet. That doesn't mean you're going to get gigabit connection to a particular website or service. If that service is only going to give out 20 megs for each individual connection that it gets, that's the fastest you're going to get. Doesn't matter how fast your internet is. It doesn't matter how fast you've done everything on your side. If that side's slow, you're stuck.
How do you stay up to date on all of the new stuff that comes out? And
that is mostly a matter of reading and listening to tech news.
Right. Do they have like courses or certifications or?
There are, but usually those lag behind from my experience anyway. I have very few courses on anything having to do with tech, and the few that I do were obsolete within a couple of years. So it's really not all that useful. Listening and reading and keeping up with all the various different companies that provide services, so much more beneficial.
Yeah, it's just the hands-on experience. I know we're getting closer to the end now, but tell us real quick, like, what are you looking for to grow Forge IT? Are you happy where you're at? Are you looking for a bit more businesses, more individuals?
I am definitely on the lookout for more businesses, especially in that 5 to 15 people range. Those types of businesses often will have an IT person because once you get to that size, you kind of need it. But a lot of them may not be all that helpful, and they may not be all that happy with the service that they're getting.
Right.
And in those sorts of circumstances, a lot of people just feel like they're stuck. They can't leave, or they just, don't bother because it's, effort to go out and find somebody.
Right.
I try to make, anytime I'm working with somebody that's in that situation, I try to make it as easy as possible. I go out to them. I do
a consultation,
an audit, see where I would expect them to be for their particular business and what I would expect them to need, see whether or not they're getting it right now, see what the price they're paying, see what I can do for them, and say, here you go.
Well, give everybody
and I do that for free.
Give everybody your contact information because we are just about out of time.
So my phone number is 407-318-2671. You can also find my contact information on my website, forgeitconsulting.com. That's FORGEIT consulting.com.
Awesome.
And you can email me at JOHN at forgeitconsulting.com.
Miss Melissa.
And I'm Striking Brand on all social media platforms, www.strikingbrand.com.
And I am Angela, and you can find me at Angela@baadradio.com, and you can check out all previous episodes at baadradio.com. You guys have a fantastic week, and like I said, it's time for the Super Bowl, so let's go. Woo!
You've been listening to Bad Radio on News Radio, WFLA, Orlando.